Hello and welcome everyone to another session of the HashiCorp User Group Sydney. My name is Ben and I'm joined by Hamid today, and we'll be going through the Terraform Associate certification. So before we start, Hamid, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everybody. My name is Hamid. I've been working as a DevOps engineer for more than 5 years, and I'm Iranian, and currently I live and work in Armenia. I'm so passionate about contributing and knowledge sharing in open source communities. So I really appreciate to Brad and Ben for this great opportunity. Yeah, that was a brief summary about me.
Great. Pleasure having you on board. So now as to how we got about to getting to this all started through a mentoring channel type thing that Brad had set up. The link's up on your screen right now. We have this mentoring channel that runs through a few different things, Terraform being one of them. Aside from Terraform, there's GitOps, there's KCNA, but this is the Terraform branch of the mentoring session. So now I'm just going to start by just showing what exactly we'll be covering today. Now, HashiCorp, Terraform, HashiCorp Certified Terraform Associate. This is the end goal of this 10-week or so program. Right now, I believe we're in the 4th chapter or so. To pass this exam, you need to be aware of a whole series of objectives that you need to be familiar with in Terraform. And how HashiCorp has done it is they have put together a review guide, which if you click on that, you get to this page. It actually tells you exactly what you need to know for each chapter, and resources, documentations, and tutorials on how to get through that. So as I mentioned, we're currently on week 4. Last week, we had a talk with Vrukshali where we ran through understanding Terraform basics. And this week, Hamid is going to take us through using the Terraform CLI. So I'm just going to stop sharing and Hamid, take it away.
Yeah, thank you.
And feel free to, if you have any questions or comments throughout this whole talk, you're more than welcome to put them up on YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're watching this from, and we will address the questions as soon as we can.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Today we're gonna speak about use the Terraform CLI outside of core workflow. As Ben mentioned before, it's a 4th chapter in exam review, and in this chapter we're gonna cover several famous, I can say famous and also important commands. For example, Terraform FMT, taint, import, workspace, state, and for debugging. Let's get started with the first step, Terraform FMT, and work with it. Terraform FMT command is used to rewrite Terraform configuration files to a canonical format and style. This command applies a subset of Terraform language style, and it helps us to having enhancing code readability, checking for file for formatting inconsistencies, and we can use it for preview the inconsistencies and changes. Let's go work with this command with a scenario that I prepared before. So for adding my chapter.
FMT stands for format, if that makes it easier for you to remember. FMT just formats your code, and it's sort of like the VS Code extension where it just makes your code go from indentations all over the place to looking really pretty.
Yeah. Now here we have a sample. We have a configuration file as a sample, and we're gonna check this command, Terraform FMT. Before run this command, I want to change intentionally some part of this code, as you can see, and check what this command do. For example, this part of code, I change it intentionally. So with this command, I can check what exactly file needs to formatting correction. For example, with this option, check. Okay, now we know this file needs to changing for formatting and for change it to canonical formatting and style. But we can use another option, for example, div, -div, for preview what kind of changes and what's the exact changes in this file. Okay, now we can see this line will be deleted, and this line will be added. For apply this command, and as I mentioned before, for rewriting this configuration, we should just run this command without any option. Also, we can add some paths here. For example, by default, this command check and apply in current directory, but we can select and choose this specific file to it. By the way, if we run this command, you can see it changes. This change. With this command, we can change all of our configuration files, formatting, and as a it's a very good command for formatting configuration files to a canonical format.
Just makes it look really neat after you run it, doesn't it? Before, as an example, something that whenever I write the code, what I tend to do is, in say your ingress, from port space, you've got multiple white spaces in there. Normally, if I'm writing the code from scratch, I wouldn't be hitting spacebar that many times to get them all aligned. I would just go from port space equals space value, and I'll just do that all the way around. But using format, Terraform does this in, they like things aligned, like how you see all the equals are aligned in that ingress block. So it's easy to see the left and right rather than having your equals, jumping all over the place. So format is just a very good, convenient tool to make things all aligned, make sure that your syntax is valid. It just does the job. It's great.
Yeah, it's really useful command. Okay, let's go ahead to another command, Terraform Change. Okay, just before get started with command taint, we should know this important warning that is written in HashiCorp website about this command, because this command is deprecated, Terraform taint, and especially for Terraform 0.15 and later, they recommend using the dash replace option with Terraform apply or Terraform plan instead. It's a very useful in cases where a user manually changes a setting on a resource, or when we want to update a provisioning scripts, and it allows us to rebuild a specific resource and avoid to full Terraform destroy all operation configuration. So here we can check the scenario for this command. I mean Terraform plan or apply dash replace, and we're gonna rebuild and recreate specific resources. For example, here if check all resources, okay, we know we have 3 resources here, and it's a AWS instance example with this name, and we're gonna rebuild or recreate it. Just this resource, not other resource or total all configuration. So you can use Terraform.
Perfect. Before you run, yeah, correct. That's what I was going to suggest. Run the plan just to show that right now there's nothing that's supposed to change.
Yeah. Terraform plan dash replace. Okay.
To understand what taint does, you would need to be aware of what Terraform considers a taint. When Terraform deploys any resources, it stores their information inside its state file, and it knows that in the case that Hamid had shown earlier, that there were 3 items in its state file. When a resource is tainted either manually through the Terraform taint command or automatically by Terraform itself, it signals to Terraform that this particular resource, there's something wrong with it. You should recreate it. So that's the purpose of the taint command and what it means when a resource is considered tainted.
Yeah, actually, for taint, Terraform taint command exactly manually mark Terraform managed resources as a tainted, and it will be destroyed or recreated in a next Terraform apply. Exactly about Terraform taint command. But as it's mentioned here in the Terraform documentation for dash replace, yeah, we can use dash replace for rebuild it. As we can see here, what's the plan? 1 to add and 1 to destroy. And what's that? It's specifically AWS instance .example. And if we check instance ID, yeah, we can see this is the instance ID specifically for EC2 instance. And if we run this command, it shows, first of all, destroy a current AWS EC2 instance, and after that, recreate a new one. Yeah, refreshing state, first of all. Yeah, this is destroying previous one and create new one.
Yep, that's how taint and plan replace and taint. The Terraform dash replace, as Hamid had said, that supersedes taint because Terraform itself has actually just marked it deprecated. I don't recall the exact reason why they discourage using taint. One of the potential reasons is that if, say, a team member, like say if Hamid and I were working on the same project, I type Terraform taint on my end, Hamid doesn't know about it. He runs and apply, and all of a sudden his resource is getting destroyed, even though, just because I've chosen to taint a resource. So that's one of the reasons why Terraform has chosen to discourage the use of taint and say if you actually want something to be destroyed and recreate, use the dash replace instead. It's a safer approach. It prevents accidents like the scenario that I just described, where one team member did something without telling the other team member, and it all blows up.
Yeah, actually, it's really nice because especially for provisioning a script, when you want to, you change something in provisioning script and you want to just rebuild and reload a specific infrastructure and a specific resource for executing this script. Yeah, it's really nice.
Do you have any examples, Hamid, about when you would use this replace function or taint?
Yes, for this replace, for example, when we have it two state Terraform state, and we can use this option for example, for change a resource from one state to another state, for replacing with something. Yeah.
One that I have used this replace option for before was in last week's session. We had talked about using the random provider to generate random passwords. Now,
Yeah.
one very useful thing about replace is you can mark your random password to be replaced, and that way you're effectively cycling the keys. You just say, all right, old key of ABC123, you are no longer valid, destroy, recreate, and that new key gets passed into all the areas where it's supposed to be. So if it's supposed to be a VM's admin password, for example, you type replace, now the admin password is now updated to a new value, and it's stored in your secret management store and all the various places.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. Okay, now we can see the instance ID changed, and you know, uh, after this replacing, we can use it for specifically rebuild a specific resources. For next step about command Terraform import. I think it's better to speak just a bit about Terraform workflow, which is so important for every command. Okay, let's start. Okay. Here, just before getting started with Terraform Import, let's check the Terraform workflow, which is so important. What's the Terraform workflow contains? It has three important steps or three important stages. First stage, writing config. In this stage, we just have a configuration file. We don't have a Terraform state or state file, and also infrastructure. In the next step, in planning, we have a configuration file, and we want to make sure about the configuration and its results. And finally, in apply stage, we have a configuration file, state file, and Terraform state, and also infrastructure by this command. And with this explanation, now we're gonna check what's happened in Terraform import workflow exactly. In Terraform import workflow, and by this command, it's very important. These 5 steps. One, identification for existing infrastructure. It's a we should know about Terraform import. We're gonna use this command for import existing infrastructure to our state. It happens a lot when we have, for example, a resource in our AWS cloud environment or other cloud platform, but it's created manually, and we want to add it in Terraform repository and in Terraform state. So for first step, we should know identification for that exact resource, and after that, import infrastructure to Terraform state, and after that, writing configuration, and after this step, using Terraform plan for ensuring the configuration, and then apply it for updating. But in this picture, we can see better. In Terraform import workflow, we have at the first, we have existing infra. We don't have state and configuration file. In this step, we use Terraform import command, and we add existing resource to our state file or Terraform state. You can see here, we don't still have a configuration file here. In the next step, we should generate configuration file, and that we will discuss about this section, especially all these sections. And after that, plan with Terraform plan. After creating a configuration file, we use Terraform plan for ensuring the configuration, the correct configuration, and then finally use Terraform apply for updating state and infrastructure, and also configuration file. Okay.
Sorry, Hamid, could you just stay on that picture for a moment?
Yes.
Allow me to just add a bit more like live examples of that could illustrate the point perhaps a little. Ideally, you want every resource provisioned by Terraform. That's best case scenario. But there are times in the real world where you just can't do that, particularly when you're dealing with resources that have a state. like say an S3 bucket that contains all your logs from your various other services. Now, you wouldn't want that storage account, that S3 bucket, to be managed by Terraform, but you don't want to delete it and build one from scratch in Terraform and then transfer your logs across. So what I had just described is that first column here of existing infra. You've got an S3 bucket. Second and third column, it sort of could be either way. You could import it without a config written. I personally prefer to write the config and then import it, so that way I've got an A to B thing to sort of marry together. Once that's done, that plan step, what you're doing is it's a dry run for you to be able to match. All right, in my configuration, I wanted the S3 bucket to be of this particular specification. But when I ran plan, it says that specification A is not the same as what is currently in the infrastructure. So if I do run the apply, Terraform will change the existing infrastructure to match what I had written. So it could be good, could be bad, depending on what changes exactly are being run. So that's on you as a dev to sort of do that reconciliation. Do I want the specs that I wrote in my config to be applied to the storage bucket, or the other way around? Do I want to change my config to match what is actually in the infrastructure because the infrastructure one was correct? So could be either option. And the final step of the apply, that's where the merging is complete. Your Terraform state is now in line with your infrastructure, and that's in line with your configuration code. And moving forward, everything can be managed in Terraform, so you don't have any developers going around in the portal and clicking and changing things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with a scenario for check these steps and work with this command, Terraform Import. Let's share my VS Code. Okay. It's assumed that we have manually launched AWS EC2 instance with an instance ID. And yeah, before this session, I created manually an instance with this instance ID. Okay. We're gonna add this exact EC2 instances to currently a state. What is current state? Yeah, it is current state. But let's go here for especially this. Okay. Okay, here I created just a file named main.tf with only Terraform provider for defining Terraform providers and region and justice. I'm gonna add these current resources here. I can use here this command. AWS instance. For example, with this name, and after this option, we should add instance ID. Doesn't exist in the configuration. Yeah, because I think we should add.
You should add you have
Yeah, yeah,
the portion in there. Yeah.
yes, we should add.
Now, before you actually run the Terraform import, perhaps if you
Yeah,
just try typing Terraform import dash dash help, just give people an idea of how the command actually runs.
yeah, yes, we can use
So
it.
it's quite useful that because when you type out the entire thing, it could you scroll up a little on that? All right, so yeah, you see the usage, the very first line, Terraform global options. That's any of your dash things like dash replace and that stuff. But the main part is Terraform import address and ID, ADDR.
Yeah,
ADDR stands for address, and that address, what it is it's how you typically write any of your Terraform resources. Exactly what you had written earlier, Hamid. So you had AWS underscore instance, which is what exactly the resource is. Dot manually launched, which is the name of the resource. That's how you would pass that in as an address, and ID is that would be specific to the cloud provider. So in your case, in the AWS one, it's ID equals that short string. So that's quite good. Now, I
yeah,
guess the next step now is what you were doing with putting the that resource in.
yeah. Okay. Uh, I think it's maybe. Let's check it. Okay.
There you go. Import
Yeah,
is being prepared.
yeah, of course. Okay. So if we check again the state, we can see.
One thing that I had found quite tedious with import is sometimes right now what you have is quite a simple, straightforward, AWS underscore instance dot name. There are times where once you've Terraform gets in a little too complex, you've got your square bracket for indexes and stuff. It your shell may not be able to process it properly, and that's when you start needing to put quotes in there and you need to escape the quotes. It gets quite messy at times.
Yeah, yeah, actually.
But when it's in this demonstration, this is we're keeping it light and simple so everyone can follow along. This works perfectly fine. And as you've shown, Terraform stateless, you see that Terraform now knows of this AWS instance.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's very good, useful. Okay, after this import, we can see, okay, we have it in our state file, and yeah, and we can check this command with Terraform state list. But now we should create a configuration file. Based on HashiCorp documentation, there are two ways for creating configuration file. And first is current state. In current state, you can use this command, Terraform Show, that shows all configuration about this configuration file and about this state, about this state. So we can use this command and use output of this command and copy this output to a configuration file, for example. And also we use this command, no color, to AWS. Let's see. Now, with this Terraform Show command, we can see all this resource configuration. For example, AMI, ARN, all attributes.
That is definitely a very powerful tool. It actually gives you exactly the spec that was in that you've imported. And once it's in your Terraform configuration, that's when you start tweaking things, saying, all right, just as an example, this particular instance might be allowing every and all network traffic in. And that's something once you've imported it into your configuration, you might say, I only want to allow SSH, so only open port 22 and close every other port. So that's quite handy. Something that has been on Terraform's roadmap was once you run a Terraform import exactly like you did, import when you don't have a config file, they had, it's probably in one of their feature lists that hasn't been deployed. Once you import, it actually does exactly what you've done here, copies and saves it into a file. It's in a future roadmap thing. It would be nice if that happens sometime soon, but until then, what Hamid has shown, that's a really good option of just bringing it all in, seeing what you like with the default configurations, taking everything else that's irrelevant out. So, good job.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so for creating configuration file for this resource, we used Terraform Show and copy this output to the configuration file. Based on that workflow about Terraform import workflow, now we should check this configuration file with Terraform plan. But we know there are lots of warnings or errors in this output because this error are related to deprecated or read-only arguments. So based on this document in HashiCorp, we should remove all these options and these attributes from our configuration file. Let's do this. Okay, for example, line number 4, ARN. Yeah, we should remove it.
Yeah, exactly what we were talking about before. You import it all in and take out the irrelevant bits. Like ID, that's always something that gets provided by the cloud provider and never something you manually put in. So you just scrap out all those extra bits that's irrelevant, and it'll be good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, 22. 24, 25, 64, and 71. Again, another one thing, instance state.
Go green, go green, go green. There you go. It's looking happy.
Yes, yeah, it's correct. And
Yay!
Thank you. And finally, we use Terraform Apply for update Terraform state,
Yeah, it just
and
reconciles
that's it.
whatever you have and imports perfect.
Yeah, of course. Uh, and about a second way, it's named cherry pick configuration. In this way, we should use again Terraform Show for uh, uh, check all configuration attributed, and uh, just copy and paste the exact attributed that we needed in our configuration. And for example, in this configuration, we should know, we should have instance type. So we can use it in this part of configuration and add this parameter in front of this. And this is the cherry pick configuration. And after that, again, we run Terraform plan for ensuring the configuration. And after that, Terraform apply for updating. That was a brief summary about Terraform import. And I think let's go ahead with workspaces. Yeah.
Now, if any one of you felt that import was quite hard to grasp, don't worry, it's normal. Terraform import is probably one of the, in my opinion at least, it's one of the most complex operations that you would run in Terraform. So don't be worried if that all looks quite complicated to you. Your standard Terraform procedure usually is write code, Terraform init, plan, apply. Ideally, you wouldn't be using import that much, but by the time you master how to use import, you're already at the top tier of Terraform.
Yeah, exactly. So about Terraform workspaces, let's screen my another. Okay. Terraform workspaces. For Terraform workspaces, I created this picture. Workspaces in Terraform are simply independently managed state files. Currently, when we use a local state, in each directory that we run Terraform init, and after that Terraform apply, we have state files for specific configuration files. But workspaces in Terraform are simply independently managed state files. We can manage multiple environments with workspaces. We have some configuration files here, as we can see. Yes, here. And after running Terraform, apply, plan, and after that apply, with these workspaces, we can choose them for specific environment. For example, development workspace, especially for development environment on cloud platform, which one of them, and exactly the same for staging workspaces, workspace for staging environment, and production workspace for production environment. We can check this command, Terraform Workspace, in the command line and see the result. Let's share my screen.
Terraform Workspace, because how Terraform manages state, all it does is it creates a file called something star.tf state. Now, that TF state is just any regular file. You could have multiple TF states, one like dev.tf state, prod.tf state, so on and so forth. All Workspaces is doing is it sorts them into folders. So you will have a workspace dev folder and it stores dev.tf state, workspace prod folder, and prod.tf state. All this workspace is doing is it just helps you organize things. Workspace is one way to do it. Alternatively, you can also self-manage it. But
Yeah,
here,
of course.
I mean, show us how this Terraform Workspace works.
Oh,
No pun intended.
yes. For example, let's check with dash help. Terraform work. Yeah. We can see sub commands, delete, list, new, select, and show. And now we can check what is our workspace currently.
You can actually think of Terraform Workspace, if you're familiar with how Git works and Git branches, it's almost exactly the same thing. You type Git branch to see all your available branches, Git
Yeah,
branch
exactly.
add to create a new branch. That's the easiest summary of explaining what Workspace is. All you're doing is choosing a specific branch or workspace, and you do things in that particular lane workspace branch. It even uses some of the same names like select. Well, I suppose in Git you use checkout rather than select, but the idea is the same. You can list all your workspaces, you select to change to a workspace, new or delete. It's quite a neat solution.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. It's same as branch in Git. Yeah. Currently, when I ran a Terraform workspace list, and we can see here we have two workspaces, default and dev. And dev because I created it before. Let's check this command in another directory that we have at the first session. Okay. By default, we have one workspace named default. And if we want to create a new workspace, we can use this command, Terraform workspace new prod, for example. And after this creation workspace, automatically we I can say checkout to a new workspace. If we want to go back to a default namespace, we can use select option. Yeah.
Do you know if workspace is a local thing or a remote thing? Say, if you were on default branch and we're on the same team, when you select default, does that affect me on my end if I was on the prod branch workspace? I
As
actually don't know the answer to that question.
As far as I know, I think, I don't know exactly because I didn't work in workspaces before, but I think because of we have a remote state and local state in the concept of Terraform state. So in this part also we have remote workspace. As we can check Terraform Cloud because I checked it before in Terraform Cloud, we can create a workspace, for example, as a for test, just for test. And I think it should be have this ability that we work with workspaces remotely.
Yep.
And yeah.
Well, at the moment, let's just show an example. So if you open the that sidebar with the folders, you'll be able to see what Terraform Workspace had actually done. So just expand the sidebar for a
Yes,
moment,
yes,
the one with the files. Now,
yes,
if you look in the .terraform folder, the one that's further up, one below, just above that image, the
yes,
.terraform that's all grayed out. There you go, TF
yes,
State Pro. So the moment you create additional workspace, it will just keep creating more and more of these Terraform state folders. Let's just say in your terminal, just type Terraform workspace new staging or something. What you'll then see is that Terraform state folder that will, or should, it still only shows pro, but that should actually create more state files in, or more subfolders. Could you look in the .terraform folder for a moment? The very
uh,
top one.
uh, Terraform.
Yep, just that one. So that's the states are actually still in your tf terraform.tf state.d.
Okay.
Not sure why that's
Terraform.
only showing pro right now. There you go. So you see there's an extra folder called stage in there now. I'm not sure why the left bar didn't update it, but essentially that is how Terraform Workspace does things. It just creates multiple folders that stores each state file in that. Well, right now,
Yeah.
because we just initiated the workspace, it's a blank state, so there isn't actually a Terraform TF state file in there. But the moment you start doing things, it'll have the same name TF state all the way through, and that's how workspaces function. The perks of that is that when you're working on this exact same code, you can do things like could you go back to your main.tf while we give an example on how we can use this multi-state thing. Like in this case, your AWS security group, that thing that you've got on screen, name Terraform learn state. If you did something like Terraform, say the name is Terraform dash environment, like the environment will be env, the environment will be prod. That is how you use the exact same main.tf, and you just be able to use that for as many environments as you have. So that's a perk of actually using this workspace or that exact same file for multiple environments.
Okay. So we can use the name of exact workspace in the resource names.
Correct. You can actually. I don't remember the exact wording, but I believe it's something along the lines of workspace underscore name also. Then what it will do is it'll take what you had written, like in this case, pro and stag, like prod and staging. So that will actually get passed in as a variable that you can use as part of the name. So that can be quite useful for ensuring that your name is always the same as what you named your workspace. And it also tells you that if you thought that you were deploying something in prod and the name shows up as dev, that's a pretty clear sign that you're in the wrong workspace.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think let's go ahead to next command, state command.
Mhm.
That's a very important command.
Surprisingly, that's the one that we had been playing around earlier with all the state show and state list.
Yes, of course. Okay, for state command, just before getting started with this command, let's have a quick overview on this concept, state, Terraform state. We know Terraform stores state about our infrastructure and configuration. And it's used by Terraform for keeping track of metadata and improving performance for large-scale infrastructure. And as I mentioned before, we have two kind of state, local state and remote state. In local state, this state is stored by default in local file named Terraform TF state. We can see here. Yeah, this is the local state by default stored here. And a remote state, this state can be stored remotely, which works better in a team environment and for large scale project, as Ben mentioned before about the large scale and the team environment. This is the short introduction and short summary about state command and state concept. And there are some cases where we may need to modify the Terraform state. So we need a command for this, for changing and manipulating state. It's very important that we know this point that all Terraform state subcommands that modify the state write backup files, and we couldn't disable these options in Terraform, and we can use a dash backup option only for file for passing the desired path for that backup file. And yeah, that's it. I think it's a good idea that we let's go with a scenario about state and work with state and its subcommands. Okay.
State might sound like some magical thing, but as Hamid had shown, all of this is just a JSON document that's either stored on your local PC or in any storage S3 storage account, same.
Yes. Okay. What is?
It's probably just in the wrong folder. Huh.
Yeah.
Or this particular TF state is blank.
Let's. Yeah. Dash state.
Perhaps
I think
just
because
go into
yes,
one
yes,
of the folders.
because I think because of we are in another workspace.
You were in the staging workspace that was blank, so you swap it back to the default or dev workspace that you were in before.
Yeah, that's
Good catch.
yes. Yeah, it's okay.
There
Okay.
you go. Saved it.
Yes, of course. Okay. Now we have a new state directory here, and in that we have a new Terraform configuration. You can see here. With new, for example, AWS instance EC2 with name example new, example underscore new. And we want to add and move this example new instance to the current state. Here we have these resources, AWS instance.example. And if we check out here, yeah, we have AWS instance.example underscore new. So let's check with Terraform state command. That is that contains lots of sub command, list, move, pull, push, replace, provider, RM, and show. We used a list and show before, and we're gonna check some another options, and we should use it by this way: Terraform, and after that global options and state and subcommand and with its options and arguments. So here we Terraform, we want to use move some resource from one state file to another state. So we are in Terraform state new state. So we can use.
Honestly, though, like in terms of Terraform state, most of in most scenarios, you shouldn't ever need to be editing state. In this case, this is one of those cases that you have the option to do these things, but God help you if you have to use them. It's very messy, and it usually is very painful to the point where if you have to use it, you would much rather write your code in the way that is easier to destroy and recreate than having to mess around with state, because this is a deep rabbit hole where the moment you start, you're moving things from one to another, having to pull the state and edit the state file and push it back up. I have done it before. Very painful. You grow a lot of whiteheads.
Yeah, it's so I can say dangerous command, but yeah, I agree with you.
Out of all that, I think the only one that, well, you've got list and show. Those are very handy stuff you'll be using a lot. RM is probably the other one that I recommend that you as a user would, like everyone, not you specifically, everyone should be aware of how to use RM. The rest of it, it's probably on the overly advanced part where it's just painful. What RM does is it literally removes a line for a state line, I guess. So when you do that, just as an example, if in your code in main.tf you choose to not manage an S3 bucket or an AWS instance, you don't want to manage anymore, you don't want it to be Terraform managed anymore, you take it out from your code. But the moment you take it out from your code, what that means to Terraform is that you want to delete it. So what you should then do is, if it's removed from your code, then you run Terraform state RM to tell Terraform, forget about this Amazon AWS instance. Don't touch it. Don't delete it. leave it be. That is when you would use RM. You just take it out from the state, and essentially that just means Terraform is no longer managing this hands off. You can do whatever you want with it. The rest of it, the rest of the state commands, it's very much like a don't touch state file. State file,
Mhm.
very bad, very scary.
Yes,
In
it's
a way,
very scary.
it's you're more likely to accidentally screw up and not one or other resources that you did not intend to touch than fix the problem. So stateless, yeah, it's one of those you should know roughly what it does, but try not to use it wherever possible, just because,
Yes,
yeah, it's a very dangerous thing the moment you start digging into state.
yes, it's a very good recommendation from you. Yes, of course, it's very scary and dangerous command. Um, yeah. Okay.
Useful to know, as like this is one of those where you just read in a doc, understand what it does, but I sure hope you never need to use them. It's very painful. I had
Yes,
first-hand experience doing it a few times, and it it stressed me out.
exactly, exactly. Okay. We're gonna move current AWS uh, example underscore new to another state file. So uh, we use a Terraform state move mv command with this flag dash state dash out. Here we should refer or we should pass the uh, state file that we want to add this resource. So uh, I, I wrote it here, and after that I select the resource name, and after that again I use the same name in the destination state file, because in this case there is no resource with the same name in that file, so I can use the same name. So let's try. Okay, so it's moved. We can check here's list. It's not here. And if we check here, yes, it's here. But again, we should pay attention to this point. We have this point in several command, for example, import command and state command. After this moving and after, I can say, manipulating state, we just changed state file, not configuration file. If we use this command, for example, now it will show that it want to destroy one of our uh, resources, because in our configuration file
It just
doesn't
didn't say
exist.
it, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it
There
want
you go.
to
As you said,
destroy. Yes, of course, it want to destroy it. So after this step, we should again, same as uh, uh, Terraform Import, we can use that two ways for creating configuration file. Uh, One way for current state and use Terraform Show and copy its output to configuration file, and after that remove all unnecessary attributes. And another one, cherry pick configuration, and add it in the configuration file. Another command in another sub command in Terraform state, we're gonna use rm for remove a resource. Okay, now let's state remove, and we're gonna remove this AWS security group now. And after that, again, we want to add these existing resources to state file. Okay, it deleted, but there is here because of I think we should run plan and apply, if I'm not mistaken. After this state will be updated. For importing again this AWS security group, we can use again that import command, and also we should choose the ID for this resource here. Based on HashiCorp documentation, we can use this command for find the instance ID security group. Yeah, if we use Terraform output, we can see all outputs, and if we use -raw and security group, we can have just a value of security group. Okay, so let's add this part here and this part here. And after that, for updating a state file, we use Terraform refresh. We have a error already managed by Terraform.
It's already in your state file, so you didn't actually remove the security group. I think you had removed the AWS instance instead. So that's why it still thinks it's in there.
Now,
but anyway, I think we might not need to go through the import again because we need to cover the debugging scenario.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And for debugging scenario, we can generate logs from the Terraform provider and also the core application separately. Log levels, let's share my screen in this chapter.
Folks, I understand we're going a bit over time at the moment, but stick around. This is the last portion left with the debugging Terraform section, and if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to just pop them in the comments, and we'll answer them as we go.
Yeah, of course. Okay, for debugging, just we should know these two concept about we can use uh, Terraform for debugging, for creation debugging file and a log file. Also for both Terraform provider and Terraform core. For Terraform provider, we should export this environment variable tf log provider that we can see here. Or for Terraform core, we can use tf log core for Terraform core log. And this is the log levels: trace, debugging, debug, info, warn, and error. And trace is highest level of logging. And also we can use tf log path, this module, this environment for defining a specific file for collecting logs. Yeah, that was a brief summary about Chapter 4. Use the Terraform CLI, and yeah, that's it. I hope you liked it, and it's useful for everyone.
And one last sneaky Terraform command that I might sneak in, Terraform console. That's one of my favorite ones that
Yeah.
if anyone of you
We
have,
used
when
it
you're learning,
before.
yeah,
Yes.
when you
Yes.
if you're learning JavaScript as a start, like when I was learning JavaScript, what I found really handy was open up Chrome, open the developer tools, and that console just lets me test all kinds of JavaScript functions. Terraform
Yeah.
console does the exact same thing. It just runs in your console, and when you're in there, you can type all kinds of stuff like you want to find out what's the output of a certain resource. You just type in there aws underscore instance dot example, like what we had shown earlier. And after that, it just gives you all the outputs. You can test out Terraform functions. It's one of my favorite tools, that one. So have fun
Yes,
with
of
Terraform
course.
console. And well, thank you very much, Hamid. That was a very good session,
Thank you
especially
too.
like this was your for your first session. This went really well. So congratulations. That was very well done.
Thank you too.
And
Thank you for your consideration.
we extend this mentoring opportunity to anyone that participates and joins in the mentoring channel. I'm just going to put the link back up on screen again. So this is an opportunity for anyone that wants to join. You can come in, learn how to do Terraform, do KCNA, do any of these things, and along the way also build up a bit of this public speaking abilities where you come along as one of the mentees in these talks, and we guide you through, get you up to scratch on learning how to firstly code in Terraform and any other program, and build up your rep as well in being able to speak. So great session. Thank you very much all
Thank
for
you.
coming. Good job, Hamid. Fist bump for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
All right, everyone, have a good night, evening, afternoon, whatever time zone it is in your end, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye.